Hey, leaders, leadership isn't about control, it's about connection. It's about staying grounded in your values, courageous in adversity, adaptable in change, and bold in decision making.
Intentional and purposeful focus on building a culture of collaboration is the secret for leaders striving to make a difference. In building a culture of collaboration, Kurtis and Lorna Hewson will share simple tips, ideas, and strategies to take your organization's collaborative efforts to the next level.
Before we jump into the episode, remember to join our mailing list at jlinsiders.com. Every Saturday, we send out an exclusive video only to our mailing list, along with other templates, resources, videos, and much, much more. We also share upcoming events and opportunities you may not hear about anywhere else. Go to jlinsiders.com to become part of the JL Insider community.
Welcome to another episode of Building a Culture of Collaboration. I'm Kurtis Hewson, lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning.
And I'm Lorna Hewson. Today we're joined by Tyler Comeau, educator, principal, and leadership strategist from Alberta, Canada. Tyler's journey from tennis coach and firefighter to school leader and doctoral researcher has been shaped by teamwork, purpose, and growth. Tyler is the founder of The Elemental Educator and author of the book, The Elemental Leader, where he explores how leaders can align who they are with how they lead through the four elements: earth, air, water, and fire.
We're excited to dive once again into how Tyler's elemental framework helps leaders to make better decisions, build stronger teams, and lead with purpose. So, welcome back to the podcast, Tyler. Great to have you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me back, Kurtis. And I know last time I was on, we were just talking off air that I didn't get to meet Lorna, so I'm so excited to have the two of you here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to spend some time with you too, Tyler.
So you're not a stranger to the podcast. If anyone wants to go back, episode 17 was our first chance to engage with you. We'll make sure to throw that in the show notes. Now, in that conversation, we talked a little bit about your journey and your engagement through leading in so many different arenas, ed, athletics, even firefighting. So why don't we start off with just sharing, how have some of those experiences that you've had, Tyler, shaped your understanding of collaboration and leadership, especially under pressure?
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing that I've learned, whatever setting I was in, whether it was a tennis thing, a firefighting thing, a teaching thing, is those that are happy and in a good place, they're doing things with other people. They're including other people. And those that usually demonstrate the most anger or the highest stress, they're trying to do it alone. And so if anything, in all of the scenarios that I've been in, it's worked best when it's been worked with as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent.
That's a super interesting reflection. Just thinking about, those people who are happy are actually connected to other people. And that demonstration of who they are is part of that connectedness.
Well, and is a little bit of that fight or flight, I guess, mentality of when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling under pressure, when you're feeling stressed, it's easy to just retreat and just go into almost like a cocoon and I'll just take care of this myself, rather than doing what we would want to move towards, which is seeking out help and support from those around.
Absolutely.
So last time we were together, you broke down the elemental framework, the earth, air, water, fire, and such a unique lens for leadership. Can you once again walk us through each of the elements, what it represents, and how it applies to leading teams effectively, that you share in your new book? And we know you've got a copy there. Hold that up for us to share. We'll make sure that there's links to it in the show notes as well.
So excited to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess I should say, like, the elemental idea came from my background as a science teacher. Came from teaching Aristotle, having tried to teach everybody that the universe came from the four elements, and being a Marvel fan and loving the What If series and what if things could happen. And I was in my master's class and somebody kept saying, you could write a book, you should write a book. And I said, well, what would I even write one on? And I thought, well, what if like leadership was that easy? You hear people all the time say, change your life in 3 easy steps, change your life in 5 easy steps. And I said, what are 4 things that I could center around, that I could try to have an impact in education and leadership on. And I came up with, we always need to come back to our why. And that's not something I made up, right? Like that comes from Simon Sinek. That's who I follow very closely as well.
Yeah.
People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what I did though, was I took that and I did a case study analysis on values, because what he's really trying to say is it's not just why, it's what do you value behind what you're doing? Mm-hmm. And then from understanding the values, going about leadership in life, people face adversity. So there had to be a section on the adversity people face. People change all the time. So there had to be a section on change. And then with how those three intertwined with each other, there came decision making, which became the fire element. And so you had the earth and values, the air and adversity, the water on change, and the fire being the decision making process that we go about. So the idea it was, let's come up with something simple like that 4-step process, that 5-thing process, but let's put a theme or a twist on it that I'm passionate about as well, so that it hopefully stays in the minds of people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we often hear this, the idea of what's your framework for leadership? And we see commonalities. Of course, on this podcast, we talk about power collaboration. We hear the same concepts come up from each and every person, even though they may have different frameworks in play. And I really liked how the elements are simple to understand, simple to remember, but really do get to the essence of what is it that you're doing as a leader in an organization.
Absolutely.
So walk us through again. Take each one of those elements and just, in your mind, what does it mean for a leader when you're thinking about your earth, air, water, and fire?
Sure. So, there's really like so many lenses you can put on top of this. And one of the prefaces that I like to say is when we talk about the earth element and we talk about what you value, there's what you value as an organization and there's what you value as a person. Mm-hmm. And those are two very different things. And I wouldn't expect them to be the exact same thing, because you shouldn't have the exact same values as a building or a community. You're an individual person. You're going to have your own values. So when we look at it through a leadership lens, the earth element itself is, once you strip away the meat and potatoes, the color theme that you go with, what your 4-year plan looks like, the type of people that you need in your building, what is it that you're trying to do? What is your ultimate goal? What is your mission, your vision, your values, right? We heard those before. Yeah. And with that, what you're actually creating and establishing is when things get tough, these are what you're leaning on to make your decisions. So why are we doing what?
Almost to extend that metaphor, it's what are you grounded in?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, right. And so, I try to not throw as many metaphors as I can in there because it gets corny every now and then, I think. But yes, it's what you're grounded in when things get tough. It's what you're grounded in when you're lifting people up as well and celebrating. So we're not celebrating things that aren't aligned with our values either. We're really looking for what is it that we're looking to hold on to. And what I've learned in this process is that most people don't know, and most organizations are kind of all over the map on what it is they truly value.
Yeah.
Right. And so whether you're in education and you want to value student learning, maybe you want to value staff well-being. Well, are the actions that you're taking backing up what you're claiming to be a value? And if they're not, that needs to change. And if they are you recognizing they are? Did you do it with intention? Mm-hmm. So when we look at the earth element, it all comes down to that. It's the values. That transitions really well to that air element, which is the adversity we face. And it actually wasn't until an episode in this podcast where I interviewed, his name's Tom Buck, and he is a teacher turned YouTube influencer on audio video media. And he's the one that said, Tyler, a headwind isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes headwinds, when you're a pilot, it's what gives you lift to bring you up.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of shifted my perspective on my air element a little bit, because my air element was all about the adversity that you face and how you handle that adversity. But I've also added now that lens to how can you create lift from the adversity you're facing? Mm-hmm. And that always came from one of the strongest lines that I've always been told is when you're going through the toughest times, it means some of the best changes are about to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're about to turn a new page. And that air element on how we handle that adversity, tie it back to that earth element. What values do we root ourselves in to help get us through that moment? Mm-hmm. To then what change is going to happen? How are we going to flow with it? And so the water element, it's really nice because we know the properties of water are that it takes the shape of its container and whatever it's in. Mm-hmm. And when you're going about a change process, you need to fully understand the shape of the change that you're trying to make. Yeah. Is this a massive change where you need to maybe section it off and look at small containers at a time? Or is this a small change where, again, this is something you can just fluidly go into? I threw my own little plan. So that being said, when we look at the water element, it's kind of what happens after the air element. So they're almost in a sequential order, right? You find your values, you face adversity, you lean back on your values, you decide you want to make change. You're going to lean back on your values on how you're going to action that change.
Yeah.
Now, to actually set what kind of change you need is where we're going to get into that fire element, because anytime we go through change, it's scary. People don't necessarily fear or get angry about what's happening itself. They're getting angry at the fact that something is changing.
Yeah.
Right. So we had a lot of people, a new curriculum in Alberta came out, and a lot of people were angry about the new curriculum, but for different reasons, right? And some are valid to say, I've read through it and I don't agree with X, Y, Z. And some have just said, well, it's different than what I've been doing for 20 years and I don't want to change, right? And that right there is the proof that people just don't like change.
Yeah.
So that fire element is, how do we actually make the decision to go through with something? And then as a leader of that person that might resist that change, how are you deciding in your interactions with that person? What are you leaning on? And it better be that earth element. You better be coming back to what you're grounded in, those values, because that's what you're going to hold strong to. That's what you're going to push back with when you need to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's just incredible. And just thinking through each of those 4 elements, how they really lay out almost a cycle of understanding about how we live through and move through change and through that leadership piece.
I have to tell you, Tyler, from the first time you explained this to me back in episode 17 to now, it is really clear that it's becoming even more clear for you in your mind, being able to, it's always that as you talk through, and this is important in the leadership too. The more you talk through, the more you explain, the more you help bring others to understanding, it impacts your understanding as well. And really clear in sharing.
And I have to agree with you, right? Like, even hosting my own show, I've got 76 episodes out right now. And to sit here and go, man, if you listen to my first episode to listening to this episode, it's changed so much. So I can't wait to have you guys back on and see the difference. But you're right. It's fully changed the way that I want to run things and the way that I'm interpreting them, which, sparks maybe a second book coming on what that could look like, an updated version for people.
Yeah.
As soon as you get one put out there, then the next one is right behind.
That's right.
For sure.
We had things in our first book where we went a week later going, oh my goodness, why did we say it this way? We understand it so much differently now.
Yeah. So Tyler, you are working through some doctoral research right now, and
Have you finished that yet, or still working through?
I need one more participant. So I don't know when this show is airing. I don't know if you have it backdated when we're going live, but at the point of recording this, I'm looking for one more participant.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So you're exploring how principals make decisions, which is a really interesting topic. And so what connections have you discovered between decision making and building that culture of collaboration within schools?
We'll be right back to continue this episode.
We constantly hear the question, what leadership books are people reading? Can anyone suggest a great book focused on strengthening teams and building robust cultures of collaboration?
Well, we've got you covered. We've compiled a list of 102 must-reads for school leaders directly from our bookshelves. No AI-generated list here. There are so many authors who have guided our work in collaborative response and continue to influence us as learners and leaders in education.
Access this curated collection of our top 102 books for building a powerful culture of collaboration by going to bit.ly/102reads. That's bit.ly/102reads.
We hope you enjoy this curated list. And now back to our conversation.
Yeah, so I kind of want to share too that the podcast, well, the book started first, And so I thought, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to call it The Elemental Leader, and we're going to talk about it's 12 case studies. And so each element dives into 3 leaders throughout the world and how they've either led through their values, led through facing adversity, led through implementing change, or led through some bold decisions. And it breaks it down. It backs it by research from it. And that was my analysis of the world almost, right? I took some of the trending leaders. Then I thought, well, I need the perspective of everybody around us. And so I started the podcast to try to get the voice of the general population around us as well.
Yeah.
Now, I hope one day I get somebody from the book to come on the show as well. That would be really cool. But then the doctorate, the purpose of it is to bridge my lived experiences with the lived experiences of others with the academic side of things and kind of triangulate the information on what is decision making. Because we have the fire element in the book, we have the fire element in the podcast, and we have decision making at the heart of my doctorate, which is the fire element that we like to talk about, right? And so what I found in my initial part, so I guess I should share at the point of this recording where I'm at right now, is I have defended my proposal, which would validate me as a candidate for the doctorate, which then lets me start the research process. And so my research process right now is I'm looking for 12 Alberta school principals, 6 with more than 10 years of experience and 6 with less than 5. And the goal of that is to also spread it out across the province. And so the College of Alberta Superintendents divides Alberta into 6 zones. And so from each zone, I'm looking for 2 principals, one of more than 10, one of less than 5. So with that spread, like we just celebrated, there's one more to come. So once they come, that fills it. But in the ones that, and so of the other 11, we haven't gotten through all of our interviews yet. I'm still setting up my individual interviews. I've done a few at this point. And there are emerging themes. I will encourage people to read the dissertation when it comes out. But if I was to allude to anything, there's no surprise that in my book and in my podcast, I tie things back to our earth element.
Yeah.
And I tie things back to what do we value? What do we stand for? Because what's becoming clear is I think as a province, we're not aligned on that. And as a province, and when we look at leadership, everyone's doing it differently and for different reasons. And so holistically, education, should it have the same values on the north part of the province to the south end of the province? Should they be different? And that's kind of where I'm at, is I'm kind of exploring those. I'm very open. I don't want to draw a conclusion yet until I'm done and I've gone through the process, but it's been very, very interesting so far.
Yeah, that'll be fascinating to see
really
what you end up surfacing through that work.
So let's go back then to your own experiences in a leadership role here, Tyler. And I know that I've heard you say before, it's not about control, it's about connection. And you alluded to that right off the bat when we started talking. So I'm interested, what does that look like for you in practice for school leaders trying to foster belonging and trust within their teams?
You have to be authentic. And I just posted something on social media today to say, are you a performer or are you being practical? Right. And there's a big difference between the two, because the performer is there to look good, to show that they're good at their job. And the practical is to help everybody else be good at their job. Right. And so what I prioritize is checking in with the people around me to say, what is one thing I can do to help you right now? What is one thing I can do to help you take something off of your workload? Where do you need my support right now? Instead of, hey, I'm coming in to do this. Hey, I'm coming in to do that. I think this will help you, so I'm just going to do it. Right? Both of those have really good intentions, but one builds that connection with somebody where that as they start to trust that, hey, I shared that, I need some help here, they actually helped me here, they might start coming to you and initiating that conversation. Right? So you need to show up authentically and from a place of curiosity. What is the space around me that I'm trying to serve? And you need to understand that space really well.
Yeah, and it's hard to understand that space if you're not only listening, but asking questions as you're pointing to.
Yeah. So Tyler, when you're talking about collaboration, you've already talked a little bit about facing adversity and how that connects with the wind element. And that, of course, that is a challenging space for teams to be in. So how can leaders use the elemental framework to keep their teams grounded and aligned with during those specific times
when teams are facing adversity?
Yeah. And I want to share what I don't want is I don't want an organization to have like earth, air, water, and fire blasted on their walls and things beside it. What I do want an organization to do is have their values on display.
Yeah.
So that every time they walk by it and see it, they remember why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
What I do want is them to understand that adversity is going to happen and what process they should follow when it starts. Mm-hmm. Right. And so defaulting back to, okay, adversity's come my way. We're not sure what it is yet. What value are we rooted in to help me address that? Mm-hmm. What team is around me to help me address that? Mm-hmm. Kind of hinting to that if your team is more than one, maybe one of your values should be collaboration.
Yeah.
Because you need to default back to that to face adversity, go through change, make decisions.
You know, Tyler, it's interesting with that because I would say 9 out of every 10 conversations we have on this podcast, we hear the word clarity come up over and over and over again. The idea of how do you make it crystal clear? What do we value? What is important to us? And have that not only co-created, and I like what you said of there's going to be the organizational value, but then your individuals as well. And
personal values.
Yeah, personal values for us, but getting them crystal clear, right on the wall, written down as a general reminder. I think that's so powerful.
Do you know what's more important than that, though? Say it every day, too.
Yeah.
And make it a part of conversation, right? So we have organizations that say, this is what we stand for, right? So my school division, we maximize student learning. Mm-hmm. So when we walk around, that conversation needs to be, what did you do to maximize student learning?
Yeah.
How can we celebrate that you maximize student learning today? When we post on social media, here is how we maximize student learning today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that too. And it's just about actually living through your actions, those values that you've stated. It's not just a matter of, you've gone through the process of identifying those values and wordsmithing and making pretty posters.
and I know too, like one of the things that we focus on in Alberta is APORI results, right? And we have the 6 domains in the APORI, right?
Yeah. When
you're posting, when you're communicating, use that language too. So when you want, right, it comes back to what do we value? And so if divisions value APORI results, which I don't know if this is necessarily the best thing to value, at least value the domains. Because one of them is parental engagement. So when you're posting your school council meeting, right above it, parental engagement opportunity. Yeah. When you're looking for volunteers to come tie kids' skates in kindergarten, parental engagement opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Use the language of the value.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tyler, let's go back to your book then, The Elemental Leader. And you talked about, trying to boil things down into the 3 steps, 4 domain, whatever that looks like. Let's try and boil it down. What would you say are 2 core takeaways that you hope leaders walk away with when it comes to leading with purpose and strengthening collaboration? We'll be right back to continue this episode. Are you feeling alone when it comes to addressing the needs of students in your classroom or in your school? We realize that every child has their own unique set of needs. How do we possibly attend to each and every student in each and every curricular area and in each and every circumstance? Simply put, you can't do it alone.
We were feeling the same way in our school, but we were determined to find a different way to support the needs of each and every one of our students. Through much trial and error and studying the current research on professional learning communities, response to intervention, and much, much more, we developed a framework that would support not only the students in our building, but every staff member as well.
Collaborative response is a framework with 3 essential components: collaborative structures and processes, data and evidence, and continuum of supports. With careful implementation of these intersecting pieces, your school can live the belief that every child deserves a team.
Get the introductory chapter of our best-selling text, Collaborative Response, 3 foundational components that transform how we respond to the needs of learners for free. This chapter also includes a link to the companion website with numerous resources and templates related to the framework.
Go to bit.ly/C R-intro to access the chapter. That's bit.ly/C R-intro. Join the thousands of schools implementing collaborative response and seeing incredible levels of success for all students. And now back to our conversation.
To go down to 2 is tough because it took me a while to go to 4 elements, right? There's 118 elements in the periodic table, and I brought it to 4 through Aristotle.
So not enough.
Okay. Well, you know what though? There are some very, very important takeaways on that. And I think the first thing is when you establish a value and you say this is what we value, you still need to have an understanding that everybody is going to interact with that value differently.
Yeah.
And if you are a big organization, some people will reject that value. And your goal is to find those people and replace them. In all seriousness, right? You need people on your team that align with your values. And it's okay if they interpret it differently, but you need them aligned with it. Yeah. So I guess point number 1 is just recognizing that whatever you set up as a value, you as the leader, what leadership is making sure people understand that value and action on that value. Okay, and then there's just so many other points. That first one came so easy.
While you think about that, I want to respond because I've had that experience as a leader where having to be strong on one of the things that our organization will value is collaboration. And we talk about why and bring everyone's voice into it. But then if that doesn't align with somebody, let me find you an opportunity to be in another space because I don't think you're going to find happiness here.
And that would be the right way to do it, right? You said it much nicer than the way I said it. But yes, long story short is if somebody doesn't align with your values, the way to introduce it is, hey, this doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you not the best fit for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's help you find a right fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I would say for the second one, it is almost similar to that. It's when you have to make a decision, you need to make sure you explain the why. And that's going to be a Simon Sinek thing. If I was to tie it back to my own thing, it's when you need to make a decision, you need to explain the value that it's rooted in, right? You need people to understand why your organization is doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had not too long ago, I was working with a school where every meeting, every agenda template they had, every template or notes document or even resources that they were developing for teachers always had a box at the top of their why. And it was such a powerful statement about we know exactly where we're going and how we'd like to get there. And we want to share that consistently with our teams so that no matter what the staff was looking at, there was always that chance to be able to look back to why are we doing this again?
That's right. And on my staff meetings, professional learning days, beside every single activity, there's a why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
I think it's so funny, Tyler. I keep coming back to this idea of people who are in schools in leadership roles likely were teachers that were having success in their classroom. I would suggest most of the time that would be the case. And we always want to keep coming back to what would you do in the classroom to maximize learning and engagement and involvement? And what you're discussing is almost as a teacher, have I made it really clear? What's the outcome that we're looking at today? Why are we doing this activity? What's the curricular outcome that we're trying to address through this this learning that's happening today? It comes right back to some of the just good classroom practice that we'd want to reinforce. You're just now practicing it at another level within the organization.
And if you look at the most successful people out there, what you're going to find is everything that they do is reverse engineered.
Yeah.
Right. So in my book on the fire element, I do talk a little bit about Elon Musk, not as a political figure, and I do preface that, but as what he did for SpaceX, because his vision wasn't to build a rocket, it was to travel to Mars. And so reverse engineer from that, what are the steps we need? Well, that's what's going to lead you to be successful in that situation. If you look at professional athletes, a lot of them as well, they'll think with that end in mind. If you look at influencers, like, Tom Buck is the one that I referred back to. His end in mind was to just share love for audio and video with the world in whatever way capacity he could. So he then found a way to do that, right? But he found his end, and then he reverse engineered his process.
You know, what's interesting with this is we did the same thing when starting this podcast. It was not, hey, it would be really cool to start a podcast. It was instead, what would be the best way to learn from others and also communicate our learning that we've had as well. This might be a medium to be able to do that.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's go right back, Tyler. If you could give advice to yourself as a beginning leader, knowing what you know now and the learning that you've done, not just from experience, but how many podcast episodes did you say now? Over 70? 70?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of conversations with people to learn. What advice do you think you would give yourself as a young leader, knowing what you know now?
You know, that's also a challenging question because I still consider myself a young leader.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the stage where I would go back and give a ton of advice at this point. So in 20 years, I have to come back on and you can re-ask it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? One thing that I do remember is my first day as an acting admin when I was in a teaching role, and my first day as an assistant principal, and my first day of a principal. Part of me was scared.
Yeah.
And scared of failure, right? Scared of going in and just performing so poorly that instantly everybody around you would turn and say, shame and get out. And, it wasn't until when I was an acting principal, it wasn't until I dealt with the first incident that went wrong and everything was still okay that I learned that, I shouldn't be scared about this because it happens all the time. And it wasn't until like 3 weeks into being an assistant principal that, I learned that people aren't going to like you and that's okay too. What I did learn very quickly as a principal was that you're going to rely on your team more than you think. And you're not going to make a horrible mistake as long as you stick to that value of relying on your team.
Yeah.
When you should be scared is when you go into the mindset of I'm going to do everything by myself so that my boss thinks I'm just really good. I never have to bother them. It's not an issue. Right. And so I would say, don't be scared and just remember that you're there for a reason. You weren't hired out of the blue. You won a competition out of everybody else that put their name in for that competition because the people that are leading you thought that you were the best candidate for that.
That fear, I think, comes from the expectation that we need to be the one with all the right answers. And we need to be able to be efficient and effective in our job right from day one. And that's with that superhero image coming into a job, but knowing that actually it's much better for us to be able to come in as a learner and that and admit that to other people that I'm in this role, but I am learning along with you and we're going to do this together.
Absolutely.
Love it. All right, Tyler. So how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way if they want to get in touch to learn more, to engage with the podcast, and importantly, to get the book?
Get your book. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to flip that for a second. Say my priority is not that you get the book. It's that you connect with me. And you just reach out and say, what can you do to help? Because there's a lot more things other than the book. One of the things that I try to do, depending on my week and how busy it is with 2 kids and all of that in principal life, I try to, from every podcast episode, create a free resource that I also put online. And so I would say some people even just want to explore the free resources. So reach out and get that way. If you want to contact me directly, Tyler@elementaleducator.com is my email. In my outros, I say I actually read them, and just know that I actually read them. It's not somebody that works for me that reads them. It's me. But I'm also on Instagram. I post a lot of carousels on things that we should be considering growing on, some strategies, good versus bad type things. That's just at Elemental Educator as well. On YouTube, you can find the full length episodes. You can also find short form content, as well as I started doing applied leadership episodes, which is I'll take the conversation, I'll go and find some research articles that back the conversation, and then I'll talk to those research articles and what people can actually be doing. And so those run 5-6 minutes. That's just at Elemental Educator as well. It's pretty much Elemental Educator everywhere.
All right.
Oh, that's great.
Well, we have really appreciated the conversation, Tyler, and the chance to reconnect again. And most importantly, thank you for the great work that you're doing to support other leaders and other people doing good work out in the world. So thank you so much.
And thank you for a platform to help share. My goal is impact. And when I get to come on to a show such as a great one like yours, I get to be a part of that impact as well. So thanks for creating space for it.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It was a wonderful opportunity to check in with you and spend some time with you.
Take care. So our first conversation that we had with Tyler, you were not available to be with. It was a connection just with him and I, but I was excited for you to have a chance to meet. And as I said in the conversation, it's really exciting to see how with every time you share and you talk about the work that you're doing, it becomes clearer and clearer, and really love the way he views leadership through those 4 elements that really does capture some of the things we've heard from other people as well, but it's a unique spin.
Yeah, it is. And that framework that he uses through those 4 elements are so they are so applicable in leadership, but in very many other instances too. And when you think about even personally reflecting on those 4 components and thinking about how that impacts your own life, but in also in that collaborative space. I loved that Tyler talked about adversity, and of course that's the air component, the air element. He talked about adversity, and automatically, as soon as you say adversity, the first thing you think about is, the challenge and the struggles.
Well, and when you connect it to the air, it's the winds of change and the challenge that comes with that, right?
Yeah, that's right. But then he talked about that you actually can view it as that, you have the air, but gives you the lift, understanding that we most often don't make improvement. We don't push ourselves into change unless we do face some of that adversity. And so there is a positive side to that. And he spoke to that. That was really impactful.
I really like that reminder too, from a leadership perspective, that when you're building this robust culture of collaboration, we want to be able to ensure that our organizational values are understood and actioned every day. And we talk about this too, are you constantly repeating, why is it that we're doing things? What is the purpose that we have? That it's present when I love what he shared on a PD day with each one part of our agenda. Why is this being done? What does it connect to? I also think as a leader, being able to reverse engineer, as he said, of what are we trying to accomplish? And then what are the steps that we will need to take to reverse engineer it? It's a great reminder for what we want to do when we're saying, I want to build a really sustainable culture of collaboration. Okay, how? What would we do to be able to do that? Let's reverse engineer it.
I also think it's really important to think about the 4 elements as Tyler has explained them, but that they are not separate and apart, that they have that interconnection and flow between them, and that they're constantly, when you're in that the decision-making stage, you're reflecting back on your values and understanding that there's change that's involved in that decision-making. And so it is about not those, 4 separate components, but that they are highly integrated and connected with each other.
100%. All right. So once again, we would love to thank Tyler for joining the podcast and sharing their expertise. Please make sure to check out the show notes to learn more and to be able to connect with Tyler if interested in a further conversation. We also, if you've made it to this point, have 2 requests. First, join or share our mailing list at jlinsiders.com to receive weekly content and resources we know you're going to find valuable. Second, like, share, review, or subscribe to help ensure somebody else who needs to hear what we've discussed has a greater chance of finding it. Finally, don't hesitate to reach out at questions@Jigsaw Learning if you have a future topic that you'd like for us to explore, or if you'd just like to connect. We'd love to hear from you. So, as always, wishing you all the best as you endeavor to build a culture of collaboration in your organization.
See you soon.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.